Hi, my name is John Grant. Today I'm going to be doing the Pathways Final for Eschatology. Today I want to talk about a few different points because going over the full book of Revelation in 5 minutes is pretty insane. But we're going to go over just a few points. The first point I want to go over is it gives hope even when life feels unstable. I want to talk about this because we can get so wrapped up in the chaos in the book, but we forget that there is hope within the book. The second point I want to hit today is it calls us to stay faithful, not fearful. We shouldn't be afraid of it because we are bought with the blood of Jesus. So we stay faithful in that he is coming back for his bride. The next thing I want to cover is it shapes how you see the world. We need to let this book kind of reveal to us a worldview that is biblical. And so we need to have this biblical lens to look through, and I believe the book of Revelation shows us a little bit of that as well. And the final point that I want to hit on is it invites a personal response. And so these are the couple things that I want to go over today. And so let's get into it. First point I want to go over is it gives hope when life feels unstable. See, Revelation was written to Christians experiencing fear, persecution, and uncertainty. They didn't know what was going on, and John gets this revelation from Jesus, the revelation of Christ. Its central message is that God is still in control. Now, we need to understand that God controls this whole book, and he's revealing it to John. Even though things are chaos in the world, he is coming back. Even when the world looks chaotic, God is still in control. This means for your life, suffering is not meaningless. It means evil does not get the last word, and it means God sees, remembers, and will ultimately make things right. We need to know that he is in control over this entire book. And if we can read it through this lens that God is in control, even when things feel unstable, even when I face anxiety about the future or relationships or my health or the state of the world, Revelation reminds us that history is moving towards God's good purpose. And so we need to understand that it gives life even when it feels unstable. All right, let's move on to the next point. Second point, it calls us to stay faithful and not fearful. The repeated message to the churches in Revelation 2 and 3 is overcome. This speaks directly to daily life. We need to know that our walk with Jesus is not just a one-time fix-all stop. It is a day after day after day after day. It calls us to overcome. This is what these second and third chapter are really about. Stay faithful when it's easier to compromise your values. It's easy to compromise. It's easy to fall back into the sinful way of us. But when John is writing this, when Jesus is revealing this to him, he's calling the churches to stay faithful and not to compromise. And then he calls them to keep loving, even when people disappoint you. People are going to disappoint you. People are going to be, people. But we've got to stay firm in loving them. And finally, resist living in comfort, success, and approval, but live for God's purpose. All right, let's move on to the next one. My next point is it shapes how you see the world. Revelation pulls back the curtain and says there's more going on than what we see. It points out a couple of things. Behind injustice, there's spiritual realities. We need to know that injustice is not just in our mind, but there's a spiritual reality to it. It's behind worship. There is a real throne in heaven. Man, we've got to remember that there are angels in heaven worshiping Jesus at this moment. And then it shows us your choices have an eternal significance. We cannot change how people treat us, but we can seriously take it into prayer. And how do you respond when they do? Now let's move on to the last point. Point number 4, and I believe this is the most important point, is it invites a personal response. Revelation is not just a puzzle to decode. It's a letter asking 3 questions. 1, will you trust Jesus as a true king? 2, will you worship what is temporary or eternal? And 3, will you live with hope instead of cynicism? We've got to make sure that we have these on our mind when we're reading the book of Revelation. And I believe these things are applicable to our daily life. We need to ask these questions. We need to see Revelation as a daily book, not just a book to decode. So it invites a personal response to us living daily. I hope you enjoyed this Pathways Final. I hope you learned something, and most importantly, I hope that it sparks curiosity and wonder and awe of who Jesus is. Thank you.